What's going on, Jets fans? Welcome to Jets Today, episode 51. We are now more than halfway to 100. We're no longer halfway stuck at the halfway point. We will have Jake Asman join us in about 15 minutes. So if you're joined and you're like, where the hell is Jake? Don't worry, he's coming. Stay tuned, hang in there, take a beverage, put it in your hand, and just relax. James, how you feeling tonight, man?
Good. We're almost a week away from the draft. So tomorrow's 1 week. I think everyone's kind of said every single possible take that they can to this point.
Yeah.
But I think maybe there's some news that dropped, some point today that, I don't know, maybe changes the draft for the Jets.
Yes, and it's already in the comments. I'm excited. We're simulcasting to multiple places. We've got a Facebook person saying "What's up?" or excuse me, "Let's go Jets up." Thanks for joining us. Vern here's to remind us what day it is. 420. Thank you, sir. Alexander, he says, "Give me Deebo. Better him than throwing darts for the next top wide receiver in the draft." We'll start there because there are no mailbags regarding Deebo because it's obviously late breaking news.
Yeah.
It's an interesting way he put that. So are you more comfortable spending the draft capital, and on top of the draft capital, are you willing to go ahead and throw in and push your chips into the center of the table? Because it's probably going to take 10 at the minimum is what it's sounding like right now. I thought that we could probably get by with the Tyreek Hill package, but as of right now, the reporting that I'm hearing is that it's going to take more. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I would pull the trigger. I think Joe Douglas needs to move heaven and earth to get Deebo Samuel. I'm willing to pay him the money. I mean, it's not my money, but I'd be willing to pay him whatever the Jets decide that they want to pay him. I'd be willing to give up the draft capital. I mean, at the end of the day, if you think about it, okay, if it's number 10 and we're just, they plan on taking a receiver at 10 anyway, whatever receiver we pick at 10, we would hope that he would one day become Deebo Samuel, but he's not going to be Deebo Samuel right away for our young quarterback that we have going into his second year. And listen, financially, Joe Douglas set himself up to take on a monster cap hit this year. But also with the short deals, he gave himself flexibility down the line to be able to move around and be able to fit guys underneath the cap. So if I'm Joe Douglas, I'm moving heaven and earth. If it takes the Tyreek Hill package, listen, at this point, I'm tired of, making 9 picks in the draft and only 2 of them work out. You're not that it's a guarantee, but if you spend the draft capital, you're going to get a phenomenal player in Deebo Samuel to help this offense, kind of go to the next level.
Yeah, you said it best. So you don't know what you're getting. You're hoping that you're getting a hell of a football player at number 10 overall, but we all know the NFL draft doesn't really work like that. It's a very, very complex system, if you will, and it's not a guarantee. There's no perfect answer for any of these prospects, for any of these teams. And so you're right. You're getting a guy that showed already that he is more than capable of not just being a good football player, a dominant football player. He was dominant last year. The one thing that's kind of sketching me out a little bit is that he does not want to be used as a running back. As that's another report that I heard, is that he doesn't really like that, which I find to be interesting. I know it's because he's trying to have a longer career, and that's going to ultimately take its toll on him. But he's so good at it. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's such a weapon. Like, it's hard to believe that somebody that good and that explosive playing both positions. I don't know, man. I think it's incredible. And I guess, in a certain way, he's playing it smart. And if he is kind of refusing to do that, because it will lengthen his career. It will at least give him the chance to lengthen his career. Owen Barrera. Let's go with that. He says, "I don't want to give up too much for Deebo. I'm okay keeping our picks if they ask for too much. It could be a bidding war. Green Bay is going to be into it. I think Kansas City potentially might do it. We'll see. They have 2 first-round picks."
Yeah.
We talked about my jersey on the Sunday call-in show. I got it at the Jets Stadium, at the Jets shop. That's where I got it. Interesting. Some people are saying only 35 and 69. We offered 35 and 38 and 69
And
for
69.
yeah. So we offered more than that for Tyreek Hill. I'd be willing to throw in all of those picks and potentially a little bit more. The time is now. The time is now to go spend on a player like this, not wait until Zach's second contract. So Matt Morris says trade capital, cap room, AFC. It's a want and a need. Check, 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 check. I agree.
I mean, like, this is the move, right? I mean, this is the reason Joe Douglas traded all these picks. That's the reason why he accumulated all this. It's the reason why he left the financial flexibility open. It's moves for this. It's not to pick 10 guys in the NFL draft every single year. Like, at some point, someone becomes available. And the 49ers, they're playing a leverage game right now. They could hang up the phone on certain teams and say, listen, it's going to take a king's ransom to get them. So come back with more. And maybe that's a little bit of a delusion that we still feel like we can keep him here for a while. But it's going to get to a point where they're going to say, all right, he's not going to be here. The Jets are offering us 35, 38, and 69 a week from now when they don't even pick until 61 in this draft.
Yes.
So if they say, okay, well, listen, we have a young quarterback that we just drafted last year and gave up a ton of draft capital to get, we can recoup some of those picks, surround him in certain areas. And, I mean, it's going to suck. It's not like I'm saying it's going to be easy to give up Deebo Samuel, but at the end of the day, if he doesn't want to play for you, the Jets are the team that is going to be able to give you what you want. And that's just the fact. And Deebo Samuel, I think it's a valid point that you make in terms of his usage, in terms of he may want to just prolong his career. It's just really interesting because the way they used him at running back was so it feels so new. Like, I felt like when I heard about his usage at running back, I thought it was happening throughout his career. Like, it really started at week 11 of this year.
Yes.
That he had 54 catches on 86 targets and 6 carries as a running back through the first 10 weeks of the season. And the back half of the end, 11 to 17, he had, I think it was 23 catches on like 35 targets, and then just a whole load of carries. And so maybe it's I'm okay with being used that way, but they almost made it his primary position at one point. So I think the Jets can still work it out to where they could say, hey, listen, we may put you in that spot, but we do have Michael Carter and we do have these guys that we're going to play at running back. And then we'll kind of use you in, as that wide receiver, outside wide receiver kind of role.
Yep. I think you're right. And I think that's the thing. Like, I just want him to be open to doing it occasionally if we were to trade him. I don't want him to say no to it, period. And I doubt that would be the case. We have a super chat here from Jake. Thank you very much, Jake. Appreciate the support. He says, I just got in after work. We still even really want Deebo if his issue is not being used in the running game. It was half of his appeal. It's a factor, I will say. I mean, I think that's the thing, like, everybody talked about with him was how versatile he is and how versatile he was last year. And if he's refusing to do, as much over the course of a season, I think he does lose a little bit of value and a little bit of intrigue. But again, as a receiver alone, he was still very, very, very good. I think it was like 1,400 receiving yards last year, 6 receiving touchdowns. And again, I still think the expectation is that he would be willing to do it, but just not at the pace that the 49ers were using him. Kind of like you said, they were using him like that from week 11 on. And let's not do it. let's not think that he's just going to completely be closed off to the idea. Barrera. I tried. I do apologize. And I appreciate you putting that in the comments. Hopefully I remember that. Barrera. All right, let's move along here. We've got some mailbags. And if you haven't hit the like button, guys, go ahead and do that right now. And For anybody that's watching this for the first time, this channel, for this stream, we are doing a giveaway for the NFL draft. I'm giving away a Jets jersey, so don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give yourself a shot at that prize and some good Jets content as well. Here's the first mailbag because I think this is just so appropriate. Will draft day ever get here? And
No.
we're all in agreement. It will never get here, even though it's 8 days away. I think it's yeah. Vern says, "Let me get that Deebo jersey." Yeah, the draft is never gonna get here, Aaron. You might as well just forget about it, buddy. Here's the next mailbag, yet another lighthearted one. Mike, I missed you, buddy. How have you been? It's from Grant Root, and he's talking about Mike, my friend. He's going to be back on for the first round. He has not been on for months, and it'll be nice to have him on. I'm sure some of you will enjoy giving him a good thrashing, as we all enjoy to do from time and time again. Let's go to our more serious mailbags here, and this is the very first one. How well does QWilliams have to play in your eyes to warrant serious extension talks, or do you think he has already secured the bag? This is a great question. What does he have to do in your mind, James, to warrant the serious extension? He certainly hasn't secured it yet, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I think he secured money. I just don't know. Like the bag would mean he's getting some kind of monster extension, right? Is what I interpret the bag to mean anyway. I think he's cemented himself as a really solid NFL player at this point. And I would say, it's getting after the quarterback. That's what gets you the big bucks, right? When you get after the quarterback, teams will pay you virtually or nearly what you're looking to be paid. And so if he wants to secure the bag there, he's going to have to get after the quarterback, probably close to somewhat around 10 sacks, I would say. I think he's been close before, and then he's gotten hurt here and there. But he's a really young player. He has all the talent in the world. He's still developing. His rookie year, I know people weren't happy about, but it came through in his second year, and this will be his second year in this defensive system, which is built for him to get after the quarterback on the interior. And so I think in order for him to get that monster extension beyond his fifth year, the option that we picked up, he's going to have to get after the quarterback, whether that's sack numbers or just overall pressure affecting the pocket.
Yeah, it's straightforward stuff. Like you said, I'm not going to waste time, going over it again. He does have to impact the quarterback. That's the only way he's going to get the big bucks. That's how a defensive lineman gets paid, is being able to impact the quarterback down to down. I think you answered the question perfectly, so we will just move to the next one. This is an interesting one. It's from PC, and he has submitted several. And he says, in your opinion, was last season's atrocious defense a product of crucial injuries and poor depth, or was it strategically flawed? So meaning the coaching, the setup of the scheme. Why don't you go ahead? What do you think?
So it was a product of crucial injuries, bad depth, and it was flawed schematically. It's all of those. I looked at this question, I think it was maybe last night I saw it, and I really thought about it, and I was like, listen, when you are, let's be honest, that bad on defense, the way they played last year, but historically one of the worst defenses football has seen, that's kind of just the fact of the matter. When you're that bad, everyone has a hand in the pot. Everyone's to blame, from on the field to the coaching staff to the whiteboard. Everyone's got an issue there. Obviously, Carl Lawson's injury didn't help. Marcus May, Vinny Curry, who's back now. A lot of these guys, LaMarcus Joyner, the safeties were. I mean, we were picking guys up off the street at that point to try to play in the secondary. And then, I mean, schematically, I won't get too much into it, but it's a lot of bend don't break type of deal. We didn't have the players to make, to be able to make game changing type of plays. And then we played a lot of man coverage on third down, and we didn't really have the personnel to do that. And it just was a recipe of everyone kind of having a a hand in the defense just being so bad altogether.
Yeah, it's a great question, PC, and it's one of my favorite things to say on the channel is when it's that bad, it's everybody's holding hands. We're all locking arms on this one. I will point to the depth as the critical issue because injuries happen to all football teams. Even though we had a lot, we had many. I think we were probably in the top 5 or top 10 if in as far as having the most. But young football teams like ours, still building, the depth was not there. When Carl Lawson went down, most fans I think realized the long-term impact that was going to have on the season. We did not have the edge depth to handle that kind of an injury. And so ultimately that's going to be my answer for you, PC, is that the pass rush stunk. And that's what this whole defense is predicated on. And depth. We didn't have enough depth. When we had injuries, we were devastated by those injuries. So there you go. Jets Fan United is a great Jets message board. If you guys are looking for a place to talk more football, he has a great website, and he has a lot of the other Jets content creators content up, and he updates it frequently. So I encourage you guys to check it out. That's literally the name of the message board. It's Jets Fan United. Thank you for stopping by. He says, I seriously believe the Jets are high on Boye Mafe. If we don't end up taking a pass rusher in the top 10, whether it's via trade back or because we trade a pick away for Deebo Samuel or whatever it may be, I love the idea of getting Boye Mafe either at 35 or even just trading up a little bit into round 1 to nabbing him. He's a very popular edge rusher amongst the fan base. We have another super chat from Jake. Jake, you're going to break the record, man. Thank you so much for the support. Really means a lot. He says, how bad Jacksonville messed up the wide receiver market for everyone. I can't believe the insanity post the Kirk deal. Waiting to see what Watson deal does to the QB market. I'm going to answer this one. So when we saw the contract for Kirk, we all were like, oh man, this is really going to screw things up. I don't think we realized how much it was going to impact things. Players have been traded. Massive contracts have been signed post that move. And you're absolutely right, Jake. That was a redonkulous contract that they gave. And it seriously has sent a ripple effect out to the entire NFL. So pretty interesting stuff. Keeping it moving here, just looking through the chat. Trin the Great, he says, I really hope they pull through with Deebo. If they do later rounds in the draft, I say they find a good wide receiver that's tall and adds depth to the room and have them learn from Deebo's example as well. Thank you for subscribing. Talking Jets with Tigo. Really appreciate that. We're going to do a double dip scenario tonight in our mock draft. And I think there's a really good chance they double dip at wide receiver. We will talk more about that though, for sure. Jake says, I almost ran my car off the road driving when I heard Lawson went down. Oddly enough, I was also in the car and I told my wife, I was like, pull over, I'm going to make a video.
Wacky. It was an awful day.
Really, really bad. You knew nothing good was coming. Yeah. All right. We will go to the next mailbag and it's on the screen. Holy moly, Jake. Jeez. You really are trying to break the record here. I think you may have just then. I'm going to read your comment in 2 seconds. I really appreciate the support. Let's see here. KT, this is from Caden Smith on Twitter. I'm sorry, this is on the YouTube community page. My bad. He says, thoughts on KT at 4, Garrett Wilson at 10, and trading back up into the first for Nakobe Dean or Tyler Linderbaum. This is easily a dream scenario. James, thoughts?
Yep. Dream scenario is Kayvon Thibodeau at 4. I've been manifesting that is going to be the pick, and I have a week left to continue those thoughts. Garrett Wilson at 10. I'm on board. I'm having a very hard time. He is my wide receiver 1 basically throughout this entire process. And the Jameson Williams talk recently has kind of given me, because I do think if Jameson Williams never tore his ACL, I'd probably have a clear winner there. And it's not really to downplay either of their talents. I think they're both going to be really good in this league. But if Garrett Wilson is the pick at 10, I'd be very happy with that. I do see every so often that people mention like they think his talent's a little bit redundant with Elijah Moore. I don't really see that. I kind of think they come across as similar players in a sense because everyone points to the route running. But I do think Garrett Wilson has kind of the game breaking ability. I don't think it's redundant in any way. I do think he can play outside. And so I don't see that as much of an issue. So I'd love Garrett Wilson at 10. I have no problem there. And then if we're going to trade back up, I was looking at the draft trade chart today for some odd reason. I don't know why, but I was just kind of looking at like
Because you're a draft nerd like everybody here, man. We're all obsessed with the draft. That's why.
yeah, like because I want to know like, and I don't know if teams actually follow it. I don't even know who comes up with the draft trade chart. But ultimately, right, if we have pick 35, it's essentially a first round pick at that point. If Linderbaum or Nakobe Dean are sitting there at 28, the point differential is like 70 points, which equates to like a late fourth round pick. So like if some team was like, yeah, I'll move down from, 28 or 29 or whatever it is, 30, just give me a fourth round pick and you can secure one of these two players. I think it's a home run situation for the Jets. I think Nakobe Dean is a little bit higher on my list in terms of him or Linderbaum. I'd probably go Nakobe Dean. But I think the Jets would walk away and we all would walk away Thursday night. I'm calling out of work on Friday if that's the case.
I already called out. I called out literally
You already
today.
called
Actually.
out?
Yeah, I'm out Friday.
Yeah.
I'm not coming. I'm not going to work Friday.
Yeah, man. I know my boss isn't listening to this, so I may be sick. I may be sick next Friday. I'm not really sure.
There are a few days in the year where you can literally have that like kid like excitement. It's like the night before Christmas. Literally, that's what the draft
Yeah,
is for
it
me.
is.
It feels like a special day. So I feel like I have to take the day off to really fully enjoy it. Get that long weekend to enjoy it even more. Jake, you have broken the record, dude. Thank you so much for the support. Really, really, really kind of you. Really appreciate that. It means a lot. All right, we've got a ton of comments, and I'm not able to read all of these guys. They're so good though. Like I'm reading them right now as James was talking, and I just can't hit them all. I'm gonna bounce back to as many of them as I can. Let's let's go ahead to the next one, and it's right where we were talking about. So Joseph Mario Spina. I apologize if I'm saying your name wrong. This is from Twitter, and he says, do you think there's a scenario where the Jets double dip at receiver? And if so, who are some of your favorite under-the-radar receivers in the draft? So there you go. Underrated, and do you think there's a scenario where the Jets do it? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible. First of all, it's because of the position itself. When you're picking in those later rounds, you're looking for upside, and there's no real, I don't want to say harm, but a wide receiver feels like a very popular position to make a bet on later in those rounds because also when you get to those back end rounds, you're thinking about, okay, who can we throw on the special teams units? Who can contribute in some form or fashion at that spot? I think the one name that comes to mind for me under the radar wide receiver prospects is Bo Melton from out of Rutgers. He's a local product. He's got the speed. He's got size to him. And so I think he would be a really nice pick for the Jets if they decide to double dip in those later rounds. I think you can wind up with him maybe in that end of the fourth, fifth round or so. And so Bo Melton is a guy who comes to my mind, and I think actually someone just mentioned him also in there. But especially that local connection there, the Jets have probably seen him a whole ton, and he kind of fits the bill for I think what they're looking to do.
Yeah. So to answer the mailbag, wide receiver definitely has a chance. And let me pull it back up here for just a second. So you said, who are some of your favorite, under the radar receivers? I don't know if he's necessarily under the radar because he's projected to go pretty early, but nobody's really talking about him as a fit for the Jets. And I feel like Jahan Dotson maybe is getting slept on a lot. He's a really
Mhm.
good route runner, pretty explosive. He's not, a big guy. He's only 5'11", I believe. But I think that, in terms of who could they be targeting, I think Olave is a guy that a lot of people point to. Garrett Wilson's a person that a lot of people point to. I don't see a reason why Jahan Dotson shouldn't be in the conversation as well, especially if we don't draft somebody with 4 or 10. I still don't know how likely that is. I still think the Jets' best case scenario is taking a receiver at 10. But if for some reason they decide not to do it, Jahan Dotson feels like a good sleeper pick for us to either draft at 35 or by trading up, like we discussed several times. All right, good stuff, guys. Whew. Fierce Grim, he says, how about Jalen Tolbert? He was
Mhm.
at the Senior Bowl, another sleeper. There's a lot of guys, for sure, and I just think that there's a really good chance, again, that they take one early and also take one later on. Um, Thank you for the compliment, David Michelson. That's super nice of you. Really appreciate that. There's a lot of good ones, so if you haven't checked them all out, I encourage you to do that. There's some really good dudes out there. All right, we're almost through our mailbag here, and I got an update from Mr. Jake Asman. He says he'll be here by about 8:30ish, so we're waiting for him and we're patient. No rush. This is from Gary, and he says, I understand the need at edge rusher for the defense. I don't get the draft analysis saying interior defensive line is a major need. Currently, we've got Quinnen, JFM, Rankins, Shepard, Marshall, Smart, and Solomon Thomas. He says that's 7 players to play about 2 positions on any given down. Linebacker isn't talked about enough. It may be our weakest position group on the team. I tried saying that earlier in the offseason, Gary, and not a lot of people have backed me up on that one. So you and I kind of agree here, actually. Um, I don't get why we're not talking about linebacker more personally. I still love the idea of taking one in round 2 or round 3. I personally think it's a huge need. We shipped off Blake Glassman. We uh, we have Quincy Williams. We have C.J. Mosley. We have the 2 rookies from last year in Jamian Sherwood and Hamza Nasruddin. I think it's fair to say they're both question marks at this point. Who
Yep.
else do we have at linebacker?
Nobody.
That's what I'm saying. Like, how is this not a bigger conversation? But anyway, the Jets beat came out and they were like, no, 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 this is not as big as needed as you guys are saying. The Jets don't see it as big of a need. Why don't you talk about defensive tackle versus linebacker, since that's kind of the mailbag?
Yeah, so I do agree. I guess with I don't know, national media or whatever, that
Ooh,
interior defensive line is a need for the Jets. Um, and reason being is, just because you have a lot of them doesn't mean it's a good thing, in a sense. Sometimes quantity doesn't always mean quality. And so you have Quinn in there. He's going to take up one spot. They do rotate a whole bunch in this in this defense, because the front 4 is tasked with doing a lot. Not only stopping the run but getting after the quarterback. And listen, Sheldon Rankins didn't have a great year last year. Didn't have a great year, so I don't want to be banking on him to be our our player, our defensive tackle, right next to Quinnen, and that's who we're banking on. JFM, depending on what happens with the edge, he may rotate out there as well, so that may be a difficult task for him to kind of keep on going back and forth. I don't know how much I have to say about Nathan Shepard, to be quite honest with you guys. I'm not a fan of him. I'm sure he's a great guy. Nothing against him personally, but football player wise, sometimes I'd rather just not watch him play for the Jets. And ultimately, there you're left with Jonathan Marshall. He's a question mark, right? Just like
Hamza.
Hamza Nasruddin, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I have that right, right?
that's
And
okay.
then
Yep.
Jamie and Sherwood. Jamie and Sherwood tore his Achilles, and so that's not an injury that is you're kind of easily coming back from. And they were both kind of guys that they moved to linebacker after they came into the NFL and were drafted by the Jets. So ultimately, question marks there. Jonathan Marshall, we don't know what we have with him, and so I do think because of the importance of the front four altogether. I know we just kind of harp on the edge rushers, but if you think about it, if you lack some edge presence here and there on a couple plays, and you have QWilliams and somebody else, I don't know who that might be yet. Maybe it's a draftee that they decide to take early. If they're collapsing the front, the kind of the quarterback's pocket there, and he has to get outside, he's feeding them to the edge rushers. That's what we want too. We don't just want, sometimes the edge rushers, they set the edge, they let the quarterback step up, and then he winds up in the hands of QWilliams. But sometimes it's the other way around. We need that pressure from the inside, from the middle, to then flush the quarterback out to wind up, he's on the run. Timing is messed up with the routes and with the wide receivers. The whole play kind of goes to crap. And then ultimately, that's how you're affecting the quarterback. And so I do think defensive line is a lot higher. I have a couple guys on here based on what we're going to talk about later. And then linebacker, John, I'm with you. Definitely a big time need for us, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have somebody on the line, actually. I don't know who it is. Some random dude, I think, just called into the show or something. I don't know. We're going to try to get him on the screen here real quick. Let's see if we can do that midstream. Let's see here. Here is the man, the myth, the legend, Jake Asman. How you doing, dude?
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me.
My pleasure to have you. Yeah, we're happy to have you, man. I'm going to have to reset you a little bit because you're a little large and in charge, but you're okay. How you doing? How you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. Just did 4 hours of radio here in Houston, and you could guess what one of the topics was that was discussed today, right? So it's been a crazy day.
Indeed it has. So we talked about it, but I'd love to hear your stance on it. So you've talked about it for 4 hours. You can talk about it for maybe 3 more minutes. What's your stance? What's your stance on Deebo Samuel as we sit here wondering what's going to happen?
Yeah, from a Jet standpoint, I know obviously this is a Jet show. I would say do it. Get him if it's possible. Like, I mean, I did a whole video on this earlier on my YouTube channel. Like, if you're a Jet fan that's against acquiring Deebo Samuel, I'm going to need to know why, because I think you might be against trying to win games or trying to actually not stink. Like, Deebo Samuel is an unbelievable football player. All right, he's 26 years old. He just dominated playing in an offense that the Jets run themselves with a very similar coaching staff to the one that he just played for in San Francisco. So if you could get Deebo Samuel and not have to trade away the 4th overall pick, but you could bring that guy in, I think it opens yourself up, if you're the Jets in this draft, to have so many more possibilities. Now, the debate's going to be, do they trade number 10? I mean, I'm willing to listen. I really am. If I could trade number 10 and then, still keep my 2nd-round picks, I like the flexibility. But if I have to trade both 2s and the 3, the Tyreek Hill package, and still keep 10, well, then that opens you up for maybe trading back and recouping some of the picks. So as long as they keep 4, I mean, I really want them to be all in and get a player like Deebo, because I think he is everything that they need to maximize Zach Wilson. Because the reality is, and you guys know this, if Zach Wilson's not good, none of this matters. So give him every chance to be great. And Deebo Samuel with Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, Braxton Berrios, CJ Uzama, and Tyler Conklin, dare I say, that's a really good offense potentially, depending on Zach.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's all in bounds. And I actually like the idea. I prefer the Tyreek Hill package, but I don't hate the idea of just giving them 10 or maybe change in addition to that, because then you did say 35, 38, 69. Those are good draft picks. Those are not late round picks. They're not even really mid round picks. So I think there's a lot of flexibility, and they certainly have the ammunition to get it done. Guys, if you would do me a favor, if you have no idea who Jake Asman is, I don't know who you are, but you need to get with the times. In the description, I have all of his information. So if even one person's out there, go ahead and check out Jake's channel. He's on social media. I also included those links in the description. We're really happy to have you here. So we're going to go to, let's see here. We've got 2 more mailbags, and then we're going to get into some of the segments. I'm a teacher, Jake. I don't know if you knew that or not, but I'm going to quiz you guys and myself and the chat tonight. We're going to have a little fill-in-the-blank test. Those are the worst kind, and I intentionally did that. I like to make people suffer as a teacher. So,
what do you teach? What? How old are the kids? What subject?
They are in 5th grade.
Wow.
and they do reading and they do social studies with me, and yeah, that's about it. I love it
That's
though.
awesome.
Yeah,
Love it.
man. Yep. I'm a kids guy. I love the kids. All right. This is from Sean McAteer. He says, I hope we end up with 3 first round picks this year. I'm not talking about trading for 10, trade 38 and maybe 111 for another starter, and we would still then have 35 and 69 to play with. I've been saying it for a long time. Trading up into the first round, if we don't end up doing this trade for Deebo Samuel, I think it makes a ton of sense to be able to get like he said, a third starter. What are your thoughts, Jake? And then we'll get you, James. Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, my big prediction for a while has been I think the Jets end up trading back into round 1 for a player. I don't know who the player is. I think it could be maybe Linderbaum if he starts the slide, the center from Iowa. I think Nakobe Dean, or I think potentially Devin Lloyd if they slide like some think they could be in play for the Jets. But when you have 2 picks like what they do in the second round, assuming they don't trade them for Deebo Samuel, right? I think there's a good chance Joe Douglas could be aggressive and come back into the first round for another player.
I think it's very high chance. James, what are your thoughts on the idea? We've talked about it a lot.
Yeah, no, we've talked about it a lot because where they're positioned in the second round at 35 and 38, if they're looking to move up to a 27 or a 28, it's not going to take all that much draft capital to get there. I kind of mentioned before, I was just randomly looking at the draft trade chart, which I don't even know if NFL teams follow, but ultimately, it wouldn't even take that much of an aggressive move. I think it's very much in bounds for them. If they really like someone on their board and he's falling, they can very easily move up to, late 20s or mid 20s at that point.
I got people busting my chops because I'm a teacher, but we also have people busting your chops, Jake, for your Chipotle savant-like ability. Everybody's
I have it over there.
Yeah.
I have it literally right off camera. I had to pick it up right when I got off work because if I didn't get it, it was going to close by the time I'd get a chance to get it later tonight. So there you go.
Yep. Bart Simpson, he says, I'm only trading up for Linderbaum. Wouldn't trade for a linebacker. There will be a good linebacker in round 2 or 3, and I think that's fair to say. There's some good guys in that range for sure. Christian Harris, the Penn State kid, Smith, and you can also throw in Muma. There's a bunch of guys. There's a lot of guys in that range you could have your eyes set on. All right, we'll go to one more mailbag, and this is from another Jets content creator. He's just getting started, but he sends in this mailbag. He says, the take, system/scheme fits are possibly overrated when you're drafting in the top 10. He says, name me an elite NFL player that is system dependent. It's an interesting take. James, you're the X's and O's guy. I certainly have my belief on what he's saying here. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say system or scheme fit is overrated. I mean, there's an aspect of, listen, when you draft a guy with you're hoping or you're imagining what is immense talent in the top 10 of the NFL draft, that your coaching staff can get a hold of him and kind of transform him into what he needs to be in the scheme that you're running. But I wouldn't say, and it's probably also kind of position based, right?
Yes.
If you're a running back, most of these guys are, some of them are gap players, some of them are zone players, but most of them have run a little bit of both at the college level. So there's no real, aspect there. You're also probably not taking a running back in the top 10. The last time that happened, I'm not sure how it's working out for the crosstown rival there, but ultimately, I think it depends on the position, but I wouldn't go as far as saying for every position on the field, it's ultimately overrated to say scheme fit just isn't a factor. And I mean, I'm trying to think of someone off the top of my head. If you're elite, I guess you are versatile, scheme wise, but no one's really coming to the top of my head that would say this guy would stink on some other team because it's just not what they do. But so not overly overrated there.
Yeah, there are specific ones. I think the front 7 of a defense, depending on the scheme that you're trying to implement, could potentially make things a little bit murky. I know that when Rex Ryan drafted Sheldon Richardson, that was one of the things that people said was that he wasn't a scheme fit, and he had Rookie of the Year, his first year in the NFL. So I hear what he's saying, and it's an interesting take nonetheless. Jake, any opinion on that one?
Yeah, I think if you're a really good player, you're a really good player, but you can maximize a really good player and maybe make them great if they're in the right fit. Like, is Deebo Samuel doing what he did if he's not being coached by Kyle Shanahan or in that offense, how they used him? So, these are the things you got to consider when you're talking about, certain players and certain fits. But I think I agree with the overall sentiment. Like, if you're a really, really good football player, it really shouldn't matter what scheme your coaches are running because if you're really good, you're really good. And honestly, if you're really good in one team and you're awful on another team, it's probably more on the coaches than anything else.
Yeah, coaching is a huge part of it, and also a little bit of luck too. You gotta stay healthy. You have to have good players around you. You have to have a good quarterback if you're on the offensive side of the football. So definitely a lot of factors. All right, we've got a couple of super chats, and then we will get to our segments. I'm going to test these guys, and there's no BS, and I'm not going to take it easy on them. I'm not doing that. It's just not going to work for me. Not going to fly. Here is Jared Helmuth. Thank you for the super chat, my friend. He says, why not give up 4 for Deebo? He says the consensus is the talent in this draft is not at necessarily the top, but it's deep. In a weaker top-end class, you could get a star. This is a very interesting thought.
Yeah, but you can get a star at 4. You're picking at 4. You get a chance to get one of these edge rushers. You have a greater chance of finding if it's a deeper draft. You still have a greater chance of finding a better player statistically in the top 5 than you would not doing it. So you wouldn't just give away 10. You'd rather give away 10 than 4. Like, think of the players we're talking about for the Jets. Kayvon Thibodeau's not making it to 10. So if you want him at 4, you need to get him at 4.
Yeah, to put it mildly, I'm not doing that. I'm not trading 4, and you're right. You can land somebody very, very good still in this draft, albeit it not being a top-heavy class. I'm not willing to give away 4 just on the sake that it still carries a lot of value. And also, who's going to compete with that trade offer? And honestly, who's going to compete with us giving number 10 overall? Who's got a better package of picks than we do? So ultimately, I think that's what it comes down to. It's not necessarily that he's not necessarily worth it because he's a superstar wide receiver. But I don't think we would need to give it up. James, any thoughts on the 4th overall for Deebo straight up?
Yeah, I think the Jets can structure a trade package in some other form or fashion with the amount of picks that they have. I don't think you'll have to give up number 4. I'm kind of set on one of these edge rushers here, and Jake is right. If you're looking for that edge there, and Kayvon Thibodeau is your guy, I'm not buying it. He's not going to be there at 10. Some team is gonna jump on him way before that, and hopefully it's us at number 4 there.
Yeah, we're not trying to slam you, Jared, because I do hear the logic in what you're saying. You're going to have 10, you're going to still have 35, you're going to have 38, 69, you're going to have all of your other draft picks. So I get what you're saying, but personally, I'm not doing that one. Darrelle Revis is in the house, y'all, the Hall of Famer, the future Hall of Famer, and I would assume the soon-to-be retired number 24, Darrelle Revis, right? How about before we answer that one, he should have his jersey retired, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's probably going to the Hall of Fame. Could be first ballot next summer, so we'll see.
Yeah. Thoughts on that, James? What should he be retired than the number? I think he has to be.
Yeah, I mean, he took away an entire half of a football field every single game. Yeah. So he's one of the Jet greats, that's for sure.
Yes, and one season does not make a career, but what he did in 2009, I don't even know if it's ever been done or if it will be done again. He did some amazing things against some truly unbelievable wide receivers. Just ridiculous. Anyway, thanks to Darrelle Revis for tuning in. He says, honestly, I think we should pass on Deebo. He says, I'm not giving up a first rounder. Excuse me. He says he's always injured. He wants 30 mil. I don't know if he wants 30 mil. I'm not sure if that number's specifically true. I'm not sure, though. And he says, and we're far from being a Super Bowl contender. We need all of our picks. Let's make Moore our Deebo. I like where your head's at with that, with Elijah Moore, making him the star of this offense, not necessarily trading for the star of the offense. James, why don't you go first? What are your thoughts on keeping the picks and making Elijah the man?
Yeah, I mean, the first part I kind of want to address, we're far from a super contender. Like, but when is enough enough? When are we just going to try to actually get there? Like, what is it going to be? When are we actually going to get there? How are we going to do it? I think this is one of the ways that you make yourself a super. You don't wait until you say, okay, I think we're good enough. Now we'll get the superstar. And listen, Elijah Moore, him and Deebo to me are built entirely differently. Elijah Moore, you're not going to be able to line him up in the backfield and hand him off the football. I do not feel comfortable with him doing that. And that's not to say if we trade for Deebo Samuel, he's going to become our running back. But ultimately, I think he's that presence on the outside that you can get the football to, and he provides a lot of yards after catch ability, a lot of playmaking ability, and it opens up Elijah Moore, because these guys, they can't do it on their own. That's just the fact of the matter. You need guys who are going to open up other guys. They complement other guys, and I think Deebo Samuel would very much complement Elijah Moore. If you're a defense and you're staring at Deebo Samuel on the outside and you have Elijah Moore motioning across the field, that presents a lot of issues that the Jets have not been able to present in, I don't know, my lifetime maybe. And so ultimately it's a spot where, you're going to pay the money. You're not paying the money yourself, but the team's going to pay the money. And you're going to get a star talent in here to help us get to some kind of contender competitor level.
All right, Jake, how you feeling about that?
Yeah, I mean, I want him. First off, Darrelle Revis, I love you, but you're wrong. Deebo Samuel is not often injured. All right, he had one injury-prone year out of his 3 years in the league. So, like, maybe he ends up being an injury-prone player, but we can't say that yet. I hate when narratives like that get started as if he's always injured. Oh, you mean when he played 16 of a possible 17 games this past year and had 1,800 yards of total offense? Yeah, I'd take that on the Jets. Also, we're not a Super Bowl contender. Well, Deebo Samuel takes you a big step towards getting there. If Zach Wilson ends up being really good as the second pick in the draft, Jets told you last year they think he's a star one day in this league. You know how you win a Super Bowl? If your quarterback becomes a star. How does your quarterback become a star? Hard work for sure, but he also needs help around him. Josh Allen didn't become Josh Allen until Stephon Diggs got there. Kyler Murray wasn't Kyler Murray until DeAndre Hopkins got there. If you want to win and forget the Super Bowl, how about make the playoffs, Darrell? The last time they did that, you were on the team. So it'd be nice if they could go out there and, I don't know, have their season not be over by Columbus Day for the 5th year in a row. So I'm all about Deebo Samuel. And if you got to pay him, you got to pay him. Like, you're not paying Zach Wilson a lot of money. He's on a rookie deal. This is the time to do that.
Yeah, you guys are making some unbelievable points. I'm not sure if I can add anything to it, to be honest with you. I guess I would just say that Elijah Moore and Deebo can be special together. It doesn't necessarily have to be one or the other. I like the idea of having two rather than one. So that's where I'm going to go with that one. Thank you guys. You guys are overwhelming me and I appreciate it. The comments are out of control and I'm going to get to all of them as soon as I can. Tons of super chats here. Jake, I assume it's not you, Jake, right? It's the different Jake here we're talking about.
Yeah, no, that's not me. That's
okay.
Definitely not me.
Now, if it's you, I appreciate it, nonetheless. So he says, following up on that last super chat and asking Chipotle King, why give up the pick and the contract if Deebo's issue is not liking the way he was used? And what he's referring to here, and I'm sure you know, Jake, the usage as a running back, it is apparently a sticking point for him. He doesn't want to do it because it's not that he's not good at it. It's I guess his thought is, and maybe his agent's getting in his ear saying, this is going to lessen, the longevity of your career. So what are your thoughts on that?
Look, I would just say if he's only going to be used as a receiver, he still had 1,400 yards last year. The Jets have not had a 1,000-yard wide receiver since 2015. So if they could get him on the same page, maybe they don't run him as much. Maybe they use Elijah Moore in that role and Deebo Samuel. And they did it with Braxton Berrios when Moore went down. Like, you adapt to what the player wants. If Deebo Samuel wants to play for the Jets and he only wants to be a receiver, I still think he's incredibly valuable. So, I'm not really concerned about that. Plus, I don't think we truly know what happened yet between Deebo and the Niners. Let's see this play out the next couple of days and see if there's more information that comes out, because something doesn't add up, right? He's on a team that's in the championship game. They're willing to pay him, and now all of a sudden he wants out. Something's not making total sense, in my opinion, with this story. So I just don't think it's a big deal. I think because of Robert Saleh and Mike LaFleur being on this coaching staff, if Deebo was traded, the Jets traded for him, I should say, I think they'd be able to work it out and make it a fit for Deebo.
Good answer. James, any thoughts on the comment?
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, I think it's, usage. I think it's the amount of carries that he got. I think it was the volume to it. And listen, if that's the reason, I'm not really sure, but if it is, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, John. I mean, the usage from the targets at the wide receiver spot to the carries, it was a dramatic change. I mean, the first 10 weeks, he got 86 targets as a wide receiver, had only 6 carries. And then from weeks 11 to 17, and then through the playoffs, I think as a receiver, he had 35 targets. It was a drastic change in his usage. And if they were like, hey, listen, this works, this is what we want to do it, more often, he may have said, hold on a second, that's not what I'm signing up here for. And so that's a potential. So I don't think you would be against it if we, said, okay, we're only going to do it X, Y, and Z times, not a whole bunch. But, ultimately, yeah, I think usage, it came down to the volume that it turned into.
Yep. Good stuff by you guys. All right. NY to Florida Jets fan. He says, thank you for the super chat, Jake, and thank you for the super chat, NY to Florida Jets fan. He says, if Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Ikem Ekwonu are gone, do you take Trayvon Walker? We do need a defensive tackle stud. If he does work if he does work at defensive end, it's a benefit. If worst case scenario, he's a solid defensive tackle, and then we could go JJ at 10.
That's McCagnon level drafting right there. We're going to draft 2 defensive linemen in the top 10.
We're not done yet. And he said that's assuming we have Deebo. I don't know how we would pull all of that off. I guess what he's saying is if we do pull off the Deebo move, we wouldn't necessarily need to draft a receiver, but I don't know. James, why don't you go first this time? What are your thoughts on double defensive line and Walker being one of them? I know how you feel about it, but I'm going to let you answer it.
No double defensive line, no Trayvon Walker, and if Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Ekwonu are 1, 2, and 3, you are running up the card to pick Sauce Gardner at 4. That's my take. I will not get off of it until it either doesn't happen or it happens. But that's my opinion on that. I think it's an easy pick at 4 if that's the top 3.
All right. How about just Walker? Thoughts on Walker, Jake?
I don't dislike Trayvon Walker. I'm always concerned though when you talk about taking a guy that high and it's based on potential. Like I heard, he had the best RAS score since Myles Garrett. I'm like, okay, well Myles Garrett had like quadruple the amount of sacks than Walker did in college, so it's a little different. Like we actually talked about this on our radio show today. If the Texans could be in play for Walker at number 3, I personally don't like it. As I like Jermaine Johnson better than Trayvon Walker. But as far as, you take Walker because he could be a DT. No. If you're at number 4, you need an edge, like someone that could rush the quarterback. We got plenty of guys that could play up the middle over the years, and that doesn't lead to wins. Leonard Williams, Quinnen Williams. Before that, Sheldon Richardson didn't end up panning out. Muhammad Wilkerson. They need a true guy that you line up on the edge that can get after the quarterback. That to me is Thibodeau. That to me is Hutchinson. That to me is Jermaine Johnson. If you want to take Sauce at 4 and you want to take Jermaine Johnson at 10, you could do it, assuming Deebo was acquired for the Tyreek Hill package, let's say. But I don't think you could double up on defensive linemen at 4 and 10.
I'm going to show my age here a little bit. Maybe you guys are, I know, James, you're not quite as old as me. And Jake, I don't know how old you are. But Dwayne Robertson, we drafted him number 4 overall.
Pain.
Yeah. That was so, not to get off on a tangent here, but the Jets apparently, Terry Bradway at the time, knew that he had a bone-on-bone condition in his knee and still took him 4th overall. Like his career did not last very long, and the Jets still, even knowing that information, still took him at number 4, which is just wackadoo stuff. So thank you again for the question. We have another super chat here from 1189 Paris. And he says, I don't want the Jets to trade for Samuel. The Jets they have too many holes to fill, like edge rusher, wide receiver, linebacker, running back, O-line. He says the Jets should wisely use their draft capital and finish building their foundation. I mean, you're right. The idea of us having a number of holes is for sure a thing. And getting a bona fide guy like Deebo does, I don't want to say it hinders your ability to get these other holes filled, but I think it just checks one of those things off the list. You don't have to worry about wide receiver at that point. And
You
having
win more games. You win more games.
yeah,
Every football team's gonna have needs, but like your biggest need is helping Zach Wilson. That's what I don't understand when I hear Jet fans that don't want to do this. It's like, yeah, obviously, if you got to trade 4 and 10, you're not gonna do that for Deebo Samuel. But if you got to give to get, man, this is one of the best weapons in the NFL, and you're putting him in the same offense that he runs in San Francisco. Like, I mean, come on, Jet fans. Do you want Zach Wilson to succeed? You add Deebo Samuel with Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, Berrios, the 2 tight ends they signed, Laken Tomlinson, Becton's back. You have Fant. You have obviously year 2 of ABT. Like, you could be a good offense, and we have not seen that. So I just get so fired up when I hear everyone talk about all these other needs. It's like, yeah, your biggest need is helping Zach Wilson. You haven't done that yet. You haven't done it enough. So Deebo helps you.
Yes, you're absolutely right. James, any thoughts on the number of holes that we have versus, just going and getting the sure thing in Deebo?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm with Jake, and I think most of other people too. I'm surprised. I'm kind of seeing like a lot more tonight of people not wanting Deebo than I feel like I've seen all day long. But
yes,
listen, Joe Douglas's job to one, he put himself in this position, draft capital wise, financial flexibility wise, to make this kind of move. And then part 2 of that is, you better be able to find a running back and a linebacker at some point in the middle rounds of the draft to help fill some of those holes there. Those do not need to be high value picks. I think the offensive line starter wise is fine where it is right there. Running back is not a need. Linebacker, you can still fill in those middle rounds, 3rd round. I think there will be some value picks there. I mean, the question is obviously edge rusher, but if you have 4 or 10, you can fill that hole there. So I don't think it's one, or it's Deebo Samuel or your team sucks. I think it's Deebo Samuel, right, and you have to do what you need to do to fill the holes with your other picks that you've afforded yourself with.
Also, running back can't be that big of a need when you have Michael Carter, who played really well last year, and then you brought back Coleman, and you could take a swing on a guy in the mid-rounds. Offensive line, yeah. Do they need more depth there? Absolutely. But your starting 5 is set right now. So some of the needs that 1189, and I love 1189. He always watches my show too, and he's a great dude. But I don't think all those needs you outlined there are actually needs given like where this team's at. Like, you had Deebo Samuel. Guess what? Wide receiver is no longer a need for your team. You can check that box off. Edge rusher, hopefully you did that at 4 with Thibodeau or one of the other pass rushers. So not all these needs are directly related to, well, if we get Deebo, we can't fill any of these other needs.
Yeah, and I'll just remind everybody at the last year's draft, we traded up for AVT. We used 2 third-round picks. We packaged those up, and a lot of people that were against that trade pointed to the idea that we had a lot of holes, and it's true. But you are landing a potential Pro Bowler on the offensive line for a very, very long time, hopefully. And I think that's the idea, is you're having to pay up, but you're getting a really, really good talent. And so I think ultimately that's my answer, is you have to pay to play. NY to Florida Jets fan again. He is our last super chat, and then we will move on to our first segment. He says, I was on a 49ers content show, and they said that they think the Jets are the leading contenders. That's nice to know. But they want 10, 35, 38. And he says, that's an overspend in my mind.
I'm not getting it.
They are not going to get that. And they may want that, and that's good for them, but they are not going to get all of that. What other team is going to do that? What other team would even be in the ballpark? And I don't think that there's another team. So I appreciate the comment, but I don't think you need to worry yourself about that. They're not going to get all of that. That's almost 3 first-round picks right there you're talking about. I know 35 and 38 technically are second-round picks, but those are early second-rounders, and those are some of the most valuable draft picks that you can possibly have. James, any thoughts on that? Would you have any concern of them, giving up that much for Deebo, or needing to give up that much?
Yeah, I just don't think they'll need to give up that much. You kind of said it. I mean, 35 and 38, draft point wise, they're very similar to end of first round picks. So 3 first round picks, I don't think it, 49ers can ask for it, but I just don't think that's going to be what they ultimately get.
And then my man Jerome Strax, as we go to the next segment, he has been giving me my countdown every stream. The last few streams, he always gives me the update. I really appreciate that. Let's go ahead. Let's do our fill in the blanks. And this is something that I had, as I was telling James before the stream, I had typed it all up nice and pretty, and then it didn't save on YouTube, and I had to rewrite the whole damn thing again. So that really sucked. But I have some questions for you fellas, and comments, chat. If you guys want to answer them as well, feel free to do that. The first question, and you can fail the question. It is the player in the 2022 NFL draft that I am most confident will end up as a New York Jet is blank.
Ooh.
Jake, you're the guest. You're the showstopper here. So, who is the player that you feel? No, I'm not just messing. I'm busting you. What do you think? Who do you think I should say? The player that you think comes to mind that you think is just absolutely going to be a Jet. I mean, of course we don't know for sure, but where are you putting your money?
I really feel at this point it's Thibodeau or Aquano at 4. I think one of them is a Jet. I just don't know who's making it to 4. I think Thibodeau will be there, so I don't know if I can give you one because it's impossible for me to know who's going to be there. But I think the 4th pick comes down to Kayvon Thibodeau and Ike Aquano at number 4.
Okay, fair enough. James, fill in that blank, baby. And not who you want, right, James. So not who you want.
All right, yeah, no, because I'm not going to get him. But I went outside the first round. So I'm going to go outside the first round. And I'm going to go with Travis Jones, the defensive tackle out of UConn. I think he is an excellent fit. I do think the interior defensive line needs help. And in the 4-3 scheme, what they're looking for on the interior, it's not just a fat guy who can stop the run. He's got to be able to get upfield and get after the quarterback. And Travis Jones is fantastic both in the run defense, and he can get after the quarterback. He's 325 pounds, but he ran a 4.9 in the 40, so he's got some speed to him. And the Jets coached him at the Senior Bowl, so they kind of know what he's about. So if he's there in that 35 to 38 range, I feel really confident the Jets might pull the trigger on him at that spot, one of those spots.
Yep. No, those are all good answers. The chat's loading it up. I really appreciate you guys participating. Jets Fan United says, Kirby Joseph, somebody that I've been screaming about all off season as a really good fit, and he would fill a need, obviously. The guy that I'm going to go ahead and say, and this is going to be in a video for this weekend. I'm going to make some predictions. I think Lewis Cines going to be a New York Jet. I think the Georgia safety, I think they're going to really like him. And so I think it was Michael Nania was talking about what are some of the strongest indicators of players that Joe Douglas takes. And he talked about the RAS scores and he talked about leadership. And Lewis Cines was a captain on that defense. He was a strong leader on that defense. And the athleticism is really, really good. Tremendous athleticism. And again, I think he and Jordan Whitehead would form a hell of a duo in the back end of the defense. Where they would take him, I don't know. It could be 35, or they might need to move up a little bit. I know there's some buzz for him potentially being taken in the first round, but I'm going to go ahead and say Lewis Cines is a Jet. All right, moving on. Another fill in the blank. You guys did pretty good. I'm not going to lie. That was a solid job. The Jets should double dip at blank. James, you can go first.
I went with linebacker. I did. I went with linebacker. I do think it is one of their most pressing needs, and that's a potentially unpopular opinion, but it is my opinion there, because I do think there's an aspect of you're not just thinking about 2022, right? CJ Mosley is not going to be a Jet forever. It's that
Great
time
point.
feels like it's coming. I don't want to say to an end, but it's possible that it ends rather soon. And so if you can get someone early on, like a Nakobe Dean, or you get, the Devin Lloyd, et cetera, there are a lot of different forms of linebackers. And we saw the Jets try to take last year 2 safeties, and convert them to linebacker, because now you have to try to find a way to cover these tight ends in the NFL now. And so some of them have to have coverage ability. And so you can kind of double dip in the sense that you can get a little bit of both scheme versatility wise, coverage, run stopper, whatever it might be, just in two different players. And so I do think linebacker is one of the more pressing needs. And I do think there are some guys that will provide value for what the Jets are looking to do later on.
The chat already spilled the beans, Jake, but I do want to hear your rationale. What would you double dip at?
Yeah, I would probably go wide receiver here. I mean, assuming that, Deebo's not a Jet come draft night, that's obviously the caveat here. But I would go, I'd go wide receiver. I mean, especially if they take Jameson Williams at 10, because then I feel like if the guy's not going to be ready till November, let's say, you're going to need to find another player in this draft that could help this team well before then. So I think it's also a really good wide receiver class. There's some guys I like in the mid rounds that could be impactful players. So I'd say wide receiver. A bunch of people saying edge as well. I think it's one of those two if I had to pick wide receiver. But, this is a test. You only get one answer. So I'm going wide receiver.
Yes. And James, you said that your answer was not going to be popular. Actually, a lot of people agreed with you in the chat. A lot of them said linebacker. And I think it's a great point that you made about CJ Mosley. Not in the long-term plans, I don't think. He's here this year for sure, and there's a chance that, they might need to move on from him after this year. So the position that I gave is O-line, and it's a caveat, I should say. I'm not doing it early. I'm willing to draft one in like the second or third round, and then I would be okay with taking one in like the 5th round as well. The injury... The thought of an injury on the offensive line now still really concerns me. And if we're talking about it's all about Zach Wilson, definitely go get your receiver early in the draft, trade for one, but you've got to get better depth. And so I've been preaching about that on the channel a lot this offseason is we don't necessarily need to reach for the apple all the way at the top of the tree, but we need to get a couple, somewhere in the middle and get some guys in here that can provide depth, some legit depth. Not Connor McDermott backing up Mekhi Becton and George Fant. Yeah. I don't like the idea of that at all. Very, very scary stuff. So I think I won that round of the fill in the blank. So we'll go to the next one. Now I'm just screwing with you guys. Here we go. Blank player should not be in consideration at pick number blank. So this is a double blanker. Blank player should not be in play at pick blank. Anybody want to go
Kyle
first?
Hamilton should not be in play at pick 4 or pick 10. I'll give you the double whammy. Do not want a safety in the top 10. No, thank you.
Yeah, that seems like that's one of the most common things that we can all agree on. Or not everybody, but content creator wise, everybody that I've spoken with and interacted with, nobody wants him at 10 or 4 for that matter. James, player pick.
Jordan Davis should not be in consideration at pick 10. I know I mentioned that defensive tackle was a need. It's not my need at 10, and I'm sure he's going to be a phenomenal player. He's a freak of a human being. Just not what I'm looking for, especially later in games. Just don't know how he's going to hold up with that body type. And so ultimately, I've seen it a couple times where people are in on Jordan Davis. Not at 10 for me. Can't do it.
Very good answers. Before I give you my answer, we've got over 200 people. Hit the like button, people. I want more likes right now. Do it. And screw all of you saying no to Saucive 4. How dare you? That is an insult to this channel. We've talked too much about him for you to put that in the comments. How dare you, people? Just kidding, actually. All right, so mine is another kind of split here. So Breece Hall or Isaiah Spiller should not be in consideration at picks 35 or 38. I've seen that take from some people. I'm not doing it. I know that they have a lot of talent at the running back spot. I'm really not interested in taking a running back third round or earlier. I would really like to wait till round 4 or 5. And then like Jake said, maybe even not at all. Maybe we go ahead and just get one as a free agent. Melvin Gordon's still available, right? He hasn't signed yet, has he?
Nope.
I think he's still out there. Yeah. I mean, there's mid-round running backs too every year that Michael Carter was a 4th-round pick. Yeah. I come from the school of thought that you should always take a swing on a running back in the mid-rounds because look at the NFL, the amount of guys that are 3rd, 4th, 5th-round picks that end up being a really good player. So I think the Jets could definitely do that this year, and people would be excited.
There are a lot of interesting comments here. Linderbaum should not be in play at 10. I've been saying that all offseason. I never thought that made a lot of sense, to be honest with you. No disrespect to anybody that says that, but a center and, you know, I don't know. I don't want to get off on a tangent here, but I agree with you. Not the play in my mind at number 10. All right, we are doing good here. Let's keep moving. The Jets are more likely to trade blank in the 2020 NFL draft. So the option is up or down. The Jets are more likely to trade up or trade down. James, what do you think?
Down.
Down. Okay.
I think down. If you're looking at 10, if there's a situation where they just don't have someone there, or someone's trying to get up and get a quarterback, the package of picks may just be too enticing to pass up on, especially if you're going to go from, I don't know, 10 to 20 with Pittsburgh or something like that. That package is going to be pretty hefty to move those 10 spots. So I think down.
My wife agrees with you. She says trade down as well. Jake, what are your thoughts? Would you trade up? I'm sorry, not would you trade up. What's more likely to happen?
I think it's more likely they trade down, but I think I'm going to totally ride the fence here. I still think there's a chance they trade up, like they come back into the first round for another player. I mean, I'm contradicting myself because all offseason I've said they're going to trade back into the first round. So I'm going to say they trade up just to be consistent with my audience. So they're trading back into round 1 to get a third first-round pick. So I'm going to say up, even though, as I explained, I could see either scenario playing out.
Yeah, I'm actually with you on that one. I think up. I know a lot of people are saying down in the chat. I know that's a very, very attractive option, especially if it's with New Orleans. But I love the idea of trading up, like you said, Jake, getting up into the first round. We've seen Joe Douglas we've seen him be aggressive in the NFL draft, and we've also seen him be very active this offseason, trying to be aggressive, trading for Tyreek Hill. So I just think that I can smell the blood in the water. I feel like he really wants to be aggressive in this draft. So that's my answer. We're losing.
Both. How about that? Trade back from 10. Pittsburgh wants to come up, and then you get their 1 next year. All of a sudden, you're at pick 20, and you're thinking, all right, we got some extra picks now. We got our 2 second-round picks. Let's come back in and make sure we get another player that we really like. Let's say it's Linderbaum in the back half of round 1. Then we all are winners. They're moving and grooving, baby.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I don't want to keep you. You put in the comment that you needed to head out of here. Jake, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you tonight, and I really appreciate you spending the time with us. You are a very busy guy, so I know this was not necessarily the easiest thing for you to pull off. Really, really appreciate it. Really respect you a lot for coming on. Thank you so much. Anything you want to say before you head out of here?
You guys are too nice, man. John, thanks so much. I'm sorry I had to obviously last second reschedule the appearance a couple of weeks ago. So thanks so much for having me, man. And I remember I came on your show. I think it was before the season started, right? Last year in August, and to see what you've done with it has been incredible, man. So if anyone likes the Jets, they need to be subscribed and watching your stuff. So thanks so much for having me on the show, guys. Appreciate it.
Really appreciate it.
Take care, Jake.
Man. Thank you so much. You have a good night, dude.
Thanks, guys. Go Jets, and let's hope they don't screw it up.
Yeah. And there he goes into the night. Jake Asman. Hope you guys enjoyed the collaboration. That was a point of emphasis, obviously, for the last month for the channel. I really wanted to push it, man. I wanted to get these guys on. Jets Central, Jets Talk 24/7, Matt O'Leary, Jake Asman. I still have plans to get Jets Media. I know that he, for whatever, I think there was a specific date that I wanted him on, but he couldn't make it. So it was kind of one of those scenarios where we're going to have to probably wait. But there's more collaborations on the way. I already have stuff in the works behind the scenes that you guys don't know about. So if that's something you guys really like, let me know in the comments after the stream airs. Just throw it in there, who you would like to see on the channel next. And maybe you don't like it. Let me know in the comments if you just want it to be James and I because we're so handsome and just so good at what we do. Just let me know in the comments, guys. I would really appreciate it. Thank you very much, Rob V. Really appreciate that. And this would be great. So, little secret. I used to watch Jets Talk Radio and Jets Talk 24/7 the most before I made my own channel. Now I don't have any damn time for those guys or for these guys, but those were the two channels that I watched the most, and I would love to have Tyson on. Not sure if he knows who I am or if I exist, but we'll give it a shot. Yeah, we'll give it a shot, and I will try to make that happen for sure. All right. We still have a lot of fill in the blanks here, but we've got 2 super chats we're going to go to real quick here. Jared Helmuth again. He says Trevor Penning at 4. I think he's being funny. I don't know what he's doing here. Trevor Penning at 4 and Kenny Pickett at 10. Start a dynasty. What in the world are you talking about? No, don't do that. No. Kenny Pickett, I don't even really like as a quarterback prospect. And we have Zach Wilson. So I think you're just screwing around, joking around, maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure. What do you think, James? Anything you want to add to that?
Not a good way to spend $1.99. That's for sure.
I think he's just joking, just trying to be funny. We'll see. NY to Florida Jets fan. He says O-line. He wants O-line, and I think he's talking about double dipping at O-line. I agree. I think that's the position to double dip at, but there's many that could be the case could be made for. I think I saw somebody in the chat say Green Bean. Green Bean I have collaborated with, and I will absolutely look to do that again. Love Green Bean. Super easy to talk to. And just a good dude. All right, let's keep going here. I've got a couple more fill in the blanks, and then we will get to our other topics. This is an interesting one. If the Jets haven't selected a blank position, I'm saying, if the Jets haven't selected a blank by pick blank, I will be panicked. So what position and what pick would it be before you really start to worry? Like, holy crap, we still haven't taken this position.
Yeah, I feel like a real like panicked situation is like if we haven't taken an edge rusher and we're at like pick 69. Then I'm like, oh, like I think that's like nightmare fuel, kind of like we just are totally ignoring it all together. Because then you're really just banking on someone at that point that you're taking a kind of a hope and a prayer on. And so I had a different position on my paper, but I kind of spoke about that position a lot tonight. So I'm going to go with edge and about if it's pick 69 and we haven't taken edge, that's nightmare fuel in my opinion.
Yes. If they do it at 35 with Boye Mafe, I'm like, okay, cool. I see the logic. I get it. Like, that's fine. I'll be okay. Like you said, pick 69. If they have not taken an edge, that is definitely scary territory. I actually said if they didn't take one by pick 38, that would also be scary as well. I would actually be not okay with them waiting until the 3rd round to select the edge. I also put if they haven't taken an offensive tackle by pick 69, that's very, very concerning to me. I think that would be a huge mistake if they don't spend a 2nd or a 3rd round pick on an offensive tackle. Like you said with CJ Mosley, George Fant is not in the long-term plans. At least I don't think he is. So It would be a bad situation, not only if we had an injury, but for 2023. If we don't have somebody waiting in the wings ready to go, that would suck. That would be bad because, like Jake said, if Zach Wilson doesn't pan out, none of this matters. I kind of feel like if he does pan out and we don't have an appropriate offensive tackle to play after Fant leaves, then it's like kind of a waste of time as well. Like, what are we doing if we don't have our offensive linemen set? Joe Grana, he says no offensive tackle until pick 69. Sean Bennett, he says wide receiver by the 4th round. Yeah, that would be crazy. Jared is on fire over here. He is a villain. He is what is it? He is what's the friggin' phrase? Chaotic evil. He says, well spent for the reaction. Great show. I had a feeling, man. I was worried. I was like, wait, what is this guy doing? What is happening? Because you've been so logical with everything else. I was like, this can't be real. Steven Kluba, thanks for joining the show. He says, trade back into round 1 for Linderbaum if he's falling. I would love to see that. Would absolutely love it. All right, let's do maybe I have a couple more that I have on my paper here, but let's for the sake of time, let's go on to another topic after this next one.
Okay.
Which player in the NFL draft and it's a blank player is bust proof? We know that that's not actually a thing, but if you had to pick a player right now that you think is most bulletproof in the NFL draft, what do you think?
I would go with Aiden Hutchinson, and I know we don't really talk about him a lot, only because we feel like we have no chance at all. And listen, I mean, draft day has been crazier, but I do think Aiden Hutchinson I would put him in that category because of the polish in his pass rush, and then also the level of kind of, I guess, tenacity or effort that he plays with. He's going to give a franchise a whole heck of a lot to be happy about. And so I would go with Aiden Hutchinson there, even though I know he's not really in our potential plans here.
A lot of people are saying Ikem Ekwonu. Icky from Manny DZ. Let's see. Williams. That's interesting. Jameson Williams. Bulletproof. I can see it. I mean, there's certainly some explosiveness there to his game. I'm actually going to say Nakobe Dean. I know a lot of people are not, or maybe he's slipping a little bit in the draft. I think whoever ends up with him is going to be very, very happy. I think he is a linebacker that is built for the NFL, the current NFL. And he's not just a fast guy. He's not an athletic linebacker just running around and creating havoc with just based on his athleticism. He's got a hell of a mind for football. And as you pointed out, I still remember the play, what was it? The orbit play where the running back or the wide receiver goes in motion and kind of orbiting around the backfield. He knows and is aware of what's going on in the football field and anticipates things. And these are the things that the Jets need at linebacker so bad. And I think that if we're talking about trading up into round one with the second round pick or one of the second round picks, he's certainly very, very close to the top of the list as far as who I would love to see in green and white. I mean, again, just think about Dean and Mosley playing defense together side by side, even if it was just for one season. That would be pretty exciting. So he is my bulletproof, bust-proof player in this draft. I don't care how tall he is. I just think he's a damn good football player. Robbie Oak, he says, I wish he was taller with longer arms, but I'd still take him. Definitely agree. The taller part doesn't really worry me, but I can hear you on the longer arms part. Being able to shed blocks, I think, is important, and the longer arms will help with that. We've got the Buffalo Jet fan with a super chat, and then we're going to go to our next topic. And he says, at 4 and at 10, draft high character men from good schools and ask them to do exactly what you saw on tape. Projection is for the mid rounds. Any thoughts on the thought of taking not just good football players at 4 and 10, but guys that have outstanding character as well?
Yeah, I mean, character is important at those spots too, because you want someone that's going to be all in. That's for sure. Because we kind of forget it's not Madden where you're just kind of making a draft pick. This is for these franchises. I know they're billion-dollar franchises, but they're making a significant financial investment in these guys, especially at those picks. So the character's got to be there, no doubt about it. Good schools is, I mean, maybe that's a little subjective based on, where the school is. I mean, I don't know some of these academic wise programs, but ultimately there, you got to get someone who's freaking super talented too at 4 and 10. So that's got to be ultimately in the mix as well.
Yeah, and we won't do this fill in the blank. Thank you for the super chat, Buffalo Jet fan. Really appreciate it. We won't do this fill in the blank, but I put down one of the most underrated players in the 2022 NFL draft is Troy Anderson from Montana State. And somebody had thrown him in the chat earlier. I just think that he's a really good football player, fills a position of need, and not necessarily at a big prestigious school. Right. Prestigious. Excuse me. I can't talk. I don't know what I'm saying. All right. Let's go to the next topic. And while I'm transitioning, guys, if you haven't heard the news, I do have a Facebook group that I made for the channel. And it is small in numbers. It's brand new, but I would love to have as many of you interacting with us on the group, or in the group, I should say. And it would be a cool way to get to know some of you guys a little bit more outside of our streams. I've been trying to build kind of a community of Jets fans. That's been one of the things that I've talked a lot about. So if you go on Facebook and search Jets Today, you will be able to find the Facebook group and join it. Would love to have you guys in there. And if I get 200 people in the Facebook group by the time the NFL draft begins, I'm going to give away a Jets t-shirt to one of the Facebook members. So hope you guys consider joining there. Would really appreciate that. Let's move on. Let's get away from the fill in the blank. We did a very nice job, I thought. Let's go to my guys. Top 10 my guys. This was a requested segment for tonight's show, and I think it was from Vern. So Vern, if you're watching, really appreciate the recommendation. I think it's a great segment to do. So, James, do you want to give me kind of like what we used to do? Do you want to give me maybe 5 of your my guys and I'll give 5?
Yeah, sure.
Right, go for it.
I'll start out with my not that I really rank them.
Yeah, I didn't rank them either.
Yeah, I didn't really rank them, but I guess like the guys at the top technically came to my head first, so technically I kind of ranked them, I guess. But I'll throw some names out there. Isaiah Likely is my guy for me, based on just his ability, his fit, what he could do for us. That's different than the tight ends that we signed. Alante Taylor, the corner out of Tennessee, he's my guy for me later on. I think he can provide quite a bit of value later on if we don't address the secondary early on. Cole Strange, the guard out of Chattanooga, he's my guy. I think he is a Joe Douglas guy also, based on the way he plays. I'll add my only other lineman in there. Zion Johnson is my guy too. I really like him in terms of, I don't know if we'll get him, but a guy who can provide versatility, guard or center, especially if something happens with Connor McGovern there. And then the last one I'll give is my mixed. I put 2 running backs, but I slashed them for my kind of the inability to pick between between the 2 of them. Brian Robinson, Alabama, B-Rob. He's my guy for sure. And then I have Kyron Williams, which I've spoken about for the last couple of weeks with him. Running back wise, those are my 2 my guys for sure. So those are 5 or 6 there that I have. That's at near the top of the list there.
Yeah. If you've been watching the channel all off season, those are all names that you've been mentioning for sure. That's not just some it's not something that you just pulled out of your butt. Really good stuff. I'm going to go ahead and give 5 of mine as well. Zion Johnson is one of them, the Boston College guard / center. I think a lot of people spend their time talking about Linderbaum, and rightfully so, but I actually think the Jets might have their eyes set on Zion Johnson. They would really like to get him, I'm sure. Just depends on where he goes in the draft. Daxton Hill, you've heard me say his name over and over again. I think he was close to being my bulletproof player for the draft. I just love his athleticism, his versatility. I think he's just going to be a really, really good professional football player wherever he goes. I think he's going to fit into pretty much any scheme. Lewis Seen, who I've now predicted, I'm now putting it out there. And as I've said, I'm going to put all of I'll push all of the chips into the middle of the table. I'm not going to hold back. I'm not afraid of being wrong. I hope you guys understand that. It's never been something that I've been worried about having a Jets channel. I put my stuff out there because I just don't care if it's wrong. So Lewis Seen, I think he's going to be a Jet. I think they really like this kid a lot. And for that reason, he's my guy. I am a little bit worried. I think I read some stuff about him in his man coverage. Wasn't all that great in college, kind of like Jordan Whitehead is really strong in zone coverage, but super athlete and great leader. So he's my guy. Cameron Thomas, the edge from San Diego State University. I think he's versatile. I think that he is an athletic guy. I think he is an underrated motor. This is one of the things that I remember reading about him is that his motor is unlike anybody else in the class. And, that's all gas, no brake. That's what we need in our defensive line. And I just feel like for those reasons, he's been on my list very early on in the offseason. And then Nakobe Dean, I mentioned him kind of like Jets Talk 24/7. Ryan from Jets Talk 24/7. He was my first crush in the like right when the season ended, and watching him play and just learning more about him. He also feels like a guy that would fit really, really well in this defense, and he's just a really good football player for the reasons that I've already mentioned. You're back, buddy. I gave you 5.
Cool. Well, I'll start off with Nakobe Dean because he's on my list too. And he's kind of taken like a weirdish turn. I mean, when the college football season's going on, everyone's a top 10 pick that's having a good year. Everyone is a top 10 pick where realistically only 10 guys can be top 10 picks. But and he's kind of taken, I don't want to say like a nosedive, but it feels like he's going to wind up towards that back end of the first round. So I really like Nakobe Dean, the smarts. You kind of talked about him before. Hit it on the head with the type of player that he is, the type of student of the game that he is. The other linebacker, Chad Muma. I love guys that are around the football, no matter where the football is at, and that is Chad Muma. He's a magnet to the football, which is kind of a nice segue to my my guy that is a magnet to the football, and that's Jalen Pitchery from Baylor. I've loved him since day one. He's all over the football field. He feels like a honey badger type of player to me, to where, okay, maybe the coverage and maybe he's more box type of guy, but ultimately I think he's someone that you can move all around the football field. So I think he brings a lot to the table. And then my last two are the big guns. I left them for last. These would have been my pick 4 and my pick 10 at the end, probably after the Cincinnati game and before this one guy tore his ACL. But Jameson Williams is my guy. Love him. His mom just started actually following me on Twitter. So I may try to get something set up, hit up Jameson Williams' mom, see if he's willing to do an interview of some sort with me. That would be pretty cool. So yeah, it was kind of right. I tweeted about him one day and it was a positive tweet. And then she followed me. So I followed her back. So me and Jameson Williams' mom, we're friends.
That's awesome.
And Sauce Gardner is my number 1 because he's not only my guy, he's my draft crush. He's a top 3 prospect in this entire draft for me. And I think I've spoken about him ad nauseum at this point. So, but he's my number 1, my guy for me.
Awesome. Very good list as well. Lots of good players there. Some people in the chat have thrown some players in there in their my guys list. McDuffie, Sam Williams. He's like that edge tweener kind of guy, the defensive end, outside linebacker kind of guy. McCullum, Abe Lucas, Zach Tom. They're my guys, he says. Dennis Sorry. Say that again. What'd you say?
I said Zach Tom. Every time I see the name Zach Tom, it doesn't even feel like a real person. I don't know why. Zach Tom is such a weird name.
It is weird. Leo Chenal from Wisconsin. Dennis gives us in the chat. Yeah, he's a beast. He looks like a beast. Michael N says Muma and Mafe just sounds like a nice duo. It does. Muma and Mafe. All right. I'm going to give you my list and then we will move on. Troy Anderson from Montana State, I talked about. He's on my guy. He is a 4.0 GPA in high school, valedictorian of his class in high school, smart as hell linebacker, and athleticism is through the roof. 4.4, 40-yard dash, and big and strong. Ooh, Strong Jr. is your guy. I'm gonna crush you for that one. I don't like that one. You crush me every once in a while, Vern. I don't like that. He's gonna be like 25 this upcoming season, isn't he? He's gonna be like super old. I don't know. He's old. Yeah, he's super old. You're not crazy for saying it. There are people out there who actually like him. I just like busting you. Anyway, back to my list. Kirby Joseph is on my list. I've mentioned him too many times to not include him. Really, really big season this year. Kind of came out of nowhere. Had a really big jump in not only production, but just playing time as well. He's my guy. Jeremy Ruckert might be a surprising name. I've talked a lot about the tight ends in the class, and the guy that I don't think we're going to end up taking is Jeremy Ruckert. But if we somehow manage to draft him, I would be beyond excited for that. I just think he's a really good tight end prospect. He's not excellent at any one thing, but he's very good in a lot of areas. And he feels like the type of tight end that's going to develop into a very, very good tight end. Not necessarily a explosive tight end, not going to be a George Kittle, a Darren Waller type, but very, very good player, I think. I think he's going to have a good career in the NFL. And then I kind of cheated as well. I have two players at the same position because I couldn't really choose. Jahan Dotson and Chris Olave, they feel like really good fits for the offense. I mentioned them earlier. Great route runners, speed, plenty of speed to play in the NFL, and not a lot of injury concerns. I just feel like these are really safe players at the wide receiver position. And lastly, my last player is Tyler Algier, the running back from BYU. I keep talking about the need for a complement, and I'm not willing to get him super early, but I just feel like he is the perfect complement to Michael Carter. We don't lose the ability to throw to the running back if he's on the football field, and we gain a little bit of more of a power, a little bit more of a physicality on offense, which I think we do need on offense. I don't think that we have a lot of physicality. I know we added Conklin. That helps a little bit. Uzama helps a little bit. It would be nice to have a running back that could really lay a nice hit on some of these linebackers. So that's my list. That's my top guys, my guys. And I appreciate Vern for the idea. Really cool of you to submit that. Ooh, Green Bean thinks that Brian Robinson is trash. Well,
come on, Green Bean.
Yeah, Green Bean, what are you doing, man? I actually like Brian Robinson. I think he's underrated a little bit.
He is.
I think people say like he's not, he doesn't have like enough speed necessarily. I don't know about that though. I think he's got enough straight line speed to do, work. And that's not who he is. He's not an explosive, going to carry the ball. He's not going to get the ball and take it 80 yards to the house. So there you go. And Jets carpet bagger, he says that he agrees he's a bruiser and knows Zach Wilson. Darrell Rivas says James Cook. James Cook is somebody that Jets Talk 24/7 has actually a crush on. He's somebody that he really likes as well, so you're not alone on that one. Jake says that Green Bean also thinks that Hamilton is worth a top 10 pick, and I love Green Bean. I think Green Bean's all about maximizing the value. I've seen him talk about wide receiver a lot on Twitter, and he's talked about how the Jets should not take one early in the draft. So I think that's one of his, like, I don't know if it's a hot take necessarily, but that's like one of the things that he's not really willing to back down off of is like, you want to get the best players available. You don't want to reach for players. And I've seen him kind of preach that a little bit on social media. Everybody here agrees. We all love Green Bean, but we can disagree with Green Bean. He's tough enough. He can handle it. We can all handle it.
For sure.
All right. Let's move on from that segment. It is getting late here, and I will have to let you guys know I have to cut it off at 10 p.m. And actually, this is the last 8 to 10 Wednesday live stream for the foreseeable future. We're going to be 7 to 9 on Wednesday nights from now on. Hopefully that doesn't ruin your night, but I wake up super early now because we have a dog. I wake up at the crack of dawn, and I just can't do it. I can't do the late nights. It's just not going to be a thing. So that's the truth of the matter. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. And that's exactly right.
No.
And that's how most of us feel. I think the people that do this, as a side job or as their main job, like, we have pretty good thick skin, I would say. So he's definitely good enough. He can handle it for sure. All right. Let's do you want to do top 10 fact or fiction, or do you want to do a top 10 mock draft? I'll let you choose, James. We're probably only going to be able to get to do one more.
Let's do the fact or fiction, because I keep looking at my mock draft and I think it's just what I actually want to happen rather than what I think is going to happen.
All right. So you said
If you're good with that, it's your show.
you said fact or fiction, right?
Yeah, I think factor fiction.
Yeah.
I like the factor fiction
I'm cool with
topic.
it.
That was cool.
I'm cool with it. All right. So I have the factor fiction scenarios written down. There's not too many, and if you guys think of a factor fiction scenario, throw it in the chat, and I will do my best to read it. And thank you guys so much for watching tonight. If you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and also find us on Facebook. I would love to interact with you guys during the week. I feel like a lot of my viewers are not on Twitter, so find me on Facebook. Most people are on Facebook. Join Jets Today's Facebook group. I would love to interact with you guys. All right, here we go. Fact or fiction? Denzel Mims bulking up is big news. Fact or fiction?
Fiction. It's fiction. Unfortunately, it's fiction. It's news, but it's not big news, in my opinion. It's news because he's trying to do the right thing. But you're going into your third year. Nothing other than production on the field is going to be big news. It should be big news for Denzel Mims. So fiction, in my opinion.
And my wife is now lying in the comments. She did not kill the pretest. She got like 80%. She got like 80% of them. She's got the confidence, the swagger that I love. Jason Rhodes, he says fact or fiction. Becton is at right tackle right now. And I actually will say that's fact. I think he will probably be the right tackle. I know, James, you disagree. You say he's going to be left tackle. I'm going to go right tackle, though. I think they like George Fant at left tackle. And the Jets have shown in this current regime, this coaching staff, they've shown that they don't really mind shuffling the offensive lineup. So, putting Becton at right tackle for this season and then maybe pushing him back to left tackle in 2023, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. So I'm going to go ahead and say fact. All right. Denzel Mims bulking up. Is it big news? I'm going to say fiction as well. I think that it is newsworthy, and I think that it's important that he did add the muscle mass. But you said it best. He has to do it on the football field for it to be big news. So I completely agree with you. John is not a fan of Denzel Mims. He says, call me when he can run routes. But there's a lot of people that say it's a fact. Dino, fact. 1189, he says it's a fact. Rusty Spooner, he says,
Yeah. Nope.
Oh man, everybody's giving she's just here for the props, you guys. Don't give her the attention that she's desiring right now. All right, next one. Mekhi Becton, we did this one before. So Mekhi Becton's going to be traded on draft night. Fact or fiction? I say fiction.
Yeah, that's fiction.
Yep. I don't see that one happening. Even if we drafted Ikem Ekwonu, I don't think they're going to do that. I think it's more likely that they would maybe potentially trade George Fant. But even then, I don't really love that either. So,
yep.
Okay. Similar. New York Jets will draft an offensive tackle in the top 10 of the NFL draft. Fact or fiction? I'll go first this time.
Yep.
I'm going to say fact. And that's not something that I want to see happen. And I think that you guys might be surprised by my answer. I think they might do it. I think that they may convince themselves if for some reason, if Ekwonu is there at 4, which I'm not even sure he's going to be, I'm not even so sure that they'll pass on Charles Cross if he's available at 10. I think they might consider pulling the trigger at 10 as well. A lot of people agree with us. Becton's not going anywhere. It's just nothing but fiction, total fiction in all caps. Fiction. Let's see here. I'm not sure where Rob V says no O-line in the first. I don't want O-line in the first either, but I'm saying it's going to be a fact because I think they might do it. I think they're crazy enough. James, what do you think? Fact or fiction?
I'm gonna go with fiction only because I do think, I don't want to say it factors into their decisions, but I do think that they listen to the outside world here. And I really think Joe Douglas's head is in or is going to be in the right place, and the way he's interested in these wide receivers and at least we know wide receivers trade wise. I think he's looking for the explosive playmakers. I think they think it's time to add that aspect to this offense if they go offense at 10. I don't think they're going to go. I really do think Kayvon Thibodeau is going to be there at 4, and they take him at 4. And then I think they'll understand if we can't get Deebo, we got to go explosive wide receiver to fill that need at 10. And this is the year they finally do that.
I'm almost afraid of them doing it, and that's why I'm doing this. I'm hoping that it's a reverse psychology or like whatever. I don't know, but I think they might do it. I don't want them to, but I think they may. Mm-hmm. Jake with another super chat. My God, dude. Thank you so much. He says, fact or fiction, props to Michelle? Straight fact. So I think that there's going to be, maybe on Sunday, we'll have Mrs. Jets today. She might make an appearance on the call-in show. So if you've been just dying to hear some of the hot takes that she has, I hope you tune in for that one. That should be a lot of fun because we have not done that. And I love, if you can't tell, I love to tease people, and she is certainly target number 1 in that regard. So, all right, we'll go to 2 more fact or fictions, and then we'll try to wrap this up. Mike is a common topic as well in the chat. Mike is going to be here for round 1, guys. So if you've been missing Mike, don't fear, don't fret. He will be back round 1 Thursday night, prime time, and we're going to do the draft, man. He's going to be here with me, and we're pretty excited about it. He and I have been talking about it, and there you go. There's Mike. Let's go to Fact or Fiction 4. And I already heard you say this, James. Kayvon Thibodeau, if he's available, the Jets will pass at number 4 overall. Fact or fiction?
Yeah, I think it's fiction, and where I'm laying my cards is the recent report that when he visited with them, it went very well, based on the reports. Now we don't know that for sure, but I think it was Peter Schrager from Good Morning Football. I think he was the one with the report that Kayvon Thibodeau was, if it wasn't earlier this week, it was later last week, that he was visiting with the Jets in Florham Park, New Jersey. And that meeting went extremely well. So I think if that's the case and he does fall to the 4 spot, I do think Joe Douglas will pull the trigger, and they'll take the opportunity to add Kayvon Thibodeau.
I think that's completely in bounds, and I'm going to go ahead and echo it. I think that they will not pass it 4. It's one of those scenarios where you would really be in a bad spot if you passed on him and he becomes, a beast for a bunch of other potential teams. But, it would be really bad if the cross rival New York Giants landed him and he becomes an absolute terror for them instead of us. Yep. Jay Johnson is saying we won't have to pass, or we won't be able to pass because he's going to be gone. And that is another rumor I'm hearing right now is Ikem Ekwonu 1, Hutchinson, and Thibodeau. That's the new top 3 that I'm hearing. Walker, not necessarily. That was kind of a last week thing. And as you guys, here's the thing. If you are new to the NFL draft, or if you're new to football, which I don't think many of us are, this is going to be the next week, because we're about to be a week away from the NFL draft. Tomorrow, it's going to be nothing but rumors and smoke screens. There's going to be so much bullshit slung to the walls, you won't even be able to see straight. Nope. So just hang on for dear life, because they're going to be way more, things thrown at us, and, hot takes and things like that. Social media. I do it, I stay on social media because I do this channel, but if you have the opportunity, stay away from social media for a while, because it's going to be it's going to be gruesome online, man. There's going to be way too much of that kind of stuff going on. Thank you, Jay Johnson. There's a good chance. I think you're right. Jason Rhodes says that New York City will eat him up. I don't know, man. I know what you're saying. Big media market. I think that Kayvon Thibodeau was made for the bright lights. I think he was made for prime time. I think he's that kind of player. And I think that's why so many people are really, really interested in him. But I hear what you're saying. The media can be pretty tough to deal with. All right, the last one, and this is kind of props to HD Marino. He came on to the Sunday call-in show, and I asked him, I said, would you be willing to take Chris Olave at number 10 overall? And so that's the question. Chris Olave should be in consideration for the number 10 overall pick. Fact or fiction? I'm interested to see what you have to say, James.
Fact. That's a fact. I think that might be my first fact of the day. But that is that's a fact for me. I think he's wildly underrated. I mean, I know there was a fill in the blank for most underrated. He wasn't mine, but he was in consideration for it. That's for sure. The way he produced at Ohio State, there were a lot of mouths to feed there. But ultimately, the way he plays his route running, how smooth he is out of his breaks, the way he catches the football, the yards after catch ability. I think he is a very viable option for the Jets at 10. A lot of people he's starting to creep up a little bit. You see some people here and there with him up in the one or two wide receiver in this entire class. So I do think it's a fact. I do think he's a excellent player. And if that's where the Jets decide to go, I can absolutely get on board with that.
Okay, that's cool to know. And I do think that he's not talked about enough. A lot of people talk about Drake London, Jameson Williams, Garrett Wilson, and not enough of him, I would say. Let's see here. HD Marino, he says, hey, that's me. That is you, buddy. Yeah, absolutely. And guys, if you didn't know, I do the live call-in show on Sundays, and it's not a bad thing, but it's been mostly the same people. I get Jorge Gonzalez, I get HD Marino, Grant Rude calls in. I would love, no offense to those guys, but I would love to interact with more of you. Put a name to the screen name, you know what I'm saying? Like a face to the screen name. Let me put that on the screen real quick. Where is it? Live call in. Here it is. Bam. 8 to 9 on Sunday nights. Nice. Would love to have you guys pop in, check it out, talk to me. I think it's a lot of fun. And as I've said many times, I am a fan of the New York Jets. I'm not an expert, and it's nice to hear from other people. So that's the opportunity that I provide to you guys. He takes offense to that. Too bad, Grant. Too freaking bad, buddy. All right. That's going to wrap up episode 51. Again, set a reminder. The show is not going to start at 8 o'clock next week. It is going to begin at 7 o'clock. And last but not least, that is the giveaway night. I'm giving the jersey away on Wednesday night. So in a week, we will know the winner of that giveaway. Look forward to having you guys come on draft eve. That is going to be really exciting. It's literally the night before the draft. James, anything you want to end the show with tonight as we head away into the night and 1 week away from the draft?
Yeah, no, everyone get a good night's sleep. Only what is it? 8 sleeps, I guess. 8 sleeps until we have the NFL draft and we at least know what round 1 looks like, and then we can start deciding what the heck we want rounds 2 and 3 and the rest of them to look like. But great show tonight. It's a weird time of the year because you're right, we're just gonna keep seeing a whole bunch of stuff that's gonna happen, and quite frankly, we have no idea what's gonna happen. So that's the fun part, though, I guess. And so, John, you enjoy your night. We'll talk over the next couple of days, and Definitely. The night before the draft, we'll be here trying to figure out what's gonna happen on Thursday night.
Yes. And one last thing I would like to say is that next week we're going to probably just exclusively do a mock draft, guys. Maybe even do 2 mock drafts, like back to back. We didn't do one tonight. Just didn't have the time. The chat was amazing. Thank you so very much for all of the comments. You guys are just unbelievable. And thank you so much for all of the new subscribers. We picked up almost over 20 tonight during the show. So really appreciate the support. Thank you guys again. Episode 51 is done. Have a great night. Go Jets. We will see you guys, or I'll see you guys on Sunday night. And that's it. Have a good one, guys. Go Jets.